I assume I'm still off stage. You're muted, Steph.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Ask Me Anything, presented by Innovative E, the 2023 and 2024 Microsoft Partner of the Year for Project and Portfolio Management. My name is Stephanie Taylor, and I am your moderator for the afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay? All right. A little bit about Innovative E. We partner with our customers to modernize your entire project management ecosystem to drive meaningful change, enhance efficiency, and improve project outcomes, giving your business the agility it needs to become a higher performing organization with happier people. Your speakers today are Mike Taylor and Brian Quick. Mike is the founder and CEO of Innovative E and lives on the Space Coast of Florida. He began his career writing PPM software for NASA and has extensive experience as a PPM practitioner, community contributor and writer, and process and app producer. Mike recently released his book, The AI Project and Work Management Revolution is Here. It's available on Amazon in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook formats. Brian, who hails from the Jacksonville, Florida area, is a Microsoft alum of 7 years, having previously managed the Microsoft project business for U.S. financial services and Midwest accounts. Brian has spent most of his career in IT project management leadership and has been with Innovative E for 5 years. Before we dive in, let's take care of some housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded. A link to the recording along with the slide deck will be sent to you via email within the next few days. You are free to review the content at your convenience or share it with colleagues who may not be able to attend our live session today. Please use the Q&A feature on the right side of the panel to ask questions. We will address as many questions as possible during our time together today. If you encounter any technical issues, such as audio or video problems, please use the chat feature to let us know. We will do our best to assist you promptly. With that out of the way, let's get started. I'm pleased to hand this floor over to Mike Taylor and Brian Quick. Mike and Brian, the virtual stage is yours.
Thanks, Stephanie. Hey, Brian, good to see you again. What part of the country are you in today?
Still in Texas, Mike. San Antonio today.
Oh, San Antonio. On the road visiting some customers. Good times.
On the road again.
All right, let's dive right in. This is actually our first AMA, so hopefully it'll go well, and looking forward to the interaction. So what we're going to do today, we obviously did the kind of the introduction, and we've got a little bit, we'll talk a little bit about our perspective. We'll talk about the scope of anything, but what we really want to, anything is in Ask Me Anything. Obviously, we're going to limit the scope of what that is that we're going to talk about. I mean, we could talk about old cars that you and I, or music, you and I could go on for that for a long time, but that's not what we're going to cover today. Then we'll open the floor for our Q&A, and we'll be taking the questions through the panel, as Steph said, and then we'll have a summary slide for contacts and keeping in touch. So with that, a little bit about us. For those who don't know, we are a couple times last couple of years we've won the Worldwide Partner of the Year We've won 7 total awards in the last 6 years. What's important about that is it's really all about our customer success. That's at the heart of these awards, and our forward-looking customers, and being able to build meaningful project and work management solutions with them. So the customer is obviously at the heart of everything we do. So what is the context of anything as we talk about today? So really, what we're going to talk about, what our perspective is, what it's really the intersection of project management strategy and the technology that delivers it. So there's you find your pure consulting companies like a McKinsey and folks who do strategy consulting. That's really not where we are. And then you find your pure technology companies who just go implement technology. We do the implementation of technology, but we really kind of our sweet spot is at that intersection of when customers have defined their strategy and they want to figure out the best way to implement the strategy with the technology at hand, the latest technology. So that's really kind of the context of the technology discussion. We are Microsoft platform centric. So if there's anyone here who wants to talk about AWS or Google cloud, things like that, that's probably we can do our best, but we're probably not going to be very deep in our depth. Our depth is really in the Microsoft platform. We will be able to talk about, and we do have some good, at least a little bit better than cursory knowledge of the ecosystem of other non-Microsoft apps, especially in the tool space of the other project work management apps that are out there. In fact, we work with some of them, and a lot of our customers have a lot of those. And there's also, if people want to talk a little bit about integrations and connectivity and things like that that the platform provides, we can certainly speak to that as well. And then if AI will likely come up in the context, and we'll actually bring it up in a survey we're going to do in a minute. We're going to talk about that in the context of how it works with project management, not in any deep dive into LLMs or any of that kind of stuff. It's really about how it works with project management. So, and then as folks are interested, we can certainly relay strategies we've seen customers take to modernize and build their project management solutions and bring them into this decade and build for beyond. So with that, we are gonna ask a couple poll questions just to kind of get the things going here for folks. So the first one is, what do you hope to get out of today's session? Is it a better understanding of kind of the project and work management technology landscape in general, or is it to learn more about AI and project management? There's a lot of buzz going on around that. Or is it to see strategies for improving your project management solutions, or talk about those? Welcome to do that. Or learning about what other organizations are doing to modernize their PPM, or if it's something else. If it's something else, feel free to drop it in the Q&A there. So not seeing much coming in yet, so give it a second. Something else. All right. And better understanding of the technology landscape. Okay. And another one for that one. And whoever put the something else, if you would just drop it in the landscape, in the Q&A. All right. So let's go. Let's take the poll down and move forward. Got another poll for you. We promise there's only 3, and then we'll get into the Q&A session. And we actually did this. If there's anybody on the call that was in our call yesterday, we actually on the webinar we asked the same question. We've tailored it a little bit back based on the response we got. So the question is, does your organization use AI for project management? So yes, it's become integral. Yes, in certain apps such as Planner, Asana, but some of those other tools. Or yes, but only outside of the project management tools. In tools like Copilot, GPT, some of the there's a myriad of tools out there. Or no, but we're investigating. Or this is the one. The number 5 is the one we had several people say. Well, you should put a response in there about it isn't allowed in our organization this time, because apparently, and we've seen this with some of our customers, they've shut it down for now until they have a better understanding on it, or not sure. So I didn't actually see the. Oh, there they are. There's the results. Yeah, and I see some people. Yep. Yeah, but only outside tools, Copilot, GPT. Yesterday we had several that were doing the no, but we're investigating as well. It was a close second, I think. All right. All right, let's move on. Oh, here, there you go. No, but investigating. There's another one. Okay, good. Okay, so ask me anything. So if you guys would drop the questions that you have into the Q&A, we'll start looking. Do we have any in there yet, Brian? I don't see any.
Nope. Is this where we play the Jeopardy theme song?
We could whistle it. I do see Frank had dropped in there, wanted to learn a little bit more about Teams for PM, I think. So we can certainly talk a little bit more about that.
Oh, yeah, I don't see that in the. Oh, it's public. I see. I was clicking on the wrong thing. There we go. Go Spurs. Okay.
Go Spurs.
Okay. All right. Anybody else on? Now we can focus on those questions for now, Mike.
Okay. Yeah, so Frank has asked about our tool, which is Teams for PM, and a focus on that. Time entry in Teams for PM. So, and is there an app too? So Teams for PM, in effect, is an app. It's basically a platform built on a platform. Let me do this. I actually included. This was actually Frank. You were in the meeting yesterday, but I put some other slides in here just so we could talk a little bit about it if people ask questions. So this is a good one to kind of highlight the kind of the concept behind and what Teams for PM is really all about. It's an app built into the Microsoft Power Platform system. And so it sits kind of in Teams, but also leverages all the Power Platform capabilities. So if you're familiar with the Dataverse, there's a data layer that's in there. It's actually a couple layers. There you have one with Teams. You have one that's like in your tenant level. We use the Teams one. But we built it to really extend the collaboration capabilities of Teams to work with other project management tools, endpoint tools, because what we saw was you had tools with like Project Online, for instance. We have a lot of customers who have Project Online. And they were looking to start to modernize, and they were doing collaboration in Project Online. If you're familiar with it, it has the SharePoint-based collaboration. But a lot of these customers were saying we'd rather do it in Teams because that's where everybody's doing work, when they're not going over into the app and working there. And so that's why we kind of took this design philosophy to build it into Teams. We also saw that it would make it much easier to use kind of holistically across apps when you built it into Teams. So you just ask integration with Monday. So let me explain a little bit about what the integration is. We have in there, you see at the bottom, I just popped up the automation there, and it says you've got fully automated. What fully automated means is things like Microsoft Project Online and Planner and Project for the Web. You can actually in Brian's demo yesterday, he actually didn't do this because it takes a couple seconds to do it. So in the interest of time, he didn't do it. But you can go in and you can launch a window, a card that says create a new project, and then it'll ask which tool you want to use. And any of those three tools that are Microsoft centric tools, it'll actually allow you to create the project in the team, and it creates the Teams channel that you saw yesterday, but it also creates the project in that tool. We haven't gone so far. So when you talk about like Monday and Smartsheet, we have a level of integration there. It doesn't go quite so far as to create it inside the tool, but you can create your project in Monday or in Smartsheet or actually several others. And then it will go and it will still create the team channel that you saw. It'll be exactly the same experience, but somebody will have to go into the admin console for Teams for PM and enter that URL for that project that'll allow you then to connect to it. So the reason, in full transparency, we haven't built it out is we want to see which tools are really being used. So we build that full feature functionality out. It's not that hard to go enter. You just go create it in Monday and then enter the URL. And then you just use it just like you would anything else. So that's how that integration works. Does that make sense, Frank? You would still be doing most of your collaboration then within the Teams for PM Teams interface. You still could go out to Monday and do your project task management and things like that, just like you would with Project Online or Planner or something like that. So, you got anything to add to that, Brian? Did I cover that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we are looking at which apps we want to bring into the fully automated sphere of influence. Right. And then also there is the Microsoft Azure DevOps, which is the remaining Microsoft-based, I don't want to call it, it's not really task management, but sort of
work management. Yeah.
Tool that's that we need yet to put in the fully automated category, which we're going to be, I think we were touched on it yesterday, Mike, and you gave an update on the roadmap for that as being Q1 2025.
Yeah, we're gonna look at doing that one and Jira, and again, since we have a little more time to dive into it, the reason it takes a little bit longer. Well, I think I mentioned yesterday we actually had ADO on our roadmap for 2024 for H2 of 2024, and we moved it off because we were doing a few other things that took priority, some customer priorities, like what you see there, Viva Goals. We actually have a customer that we're running a proof of concept with Microsoft to connect Viva Goals to project and planner plans. So it's kind of a unique situation if you think about it. And I mentioned it briefly yesterday. You've got the situation where, like Planner, you can connect to goals, but you can't really connect Project Online to goals. And then if you had something that was in another tool like a Monday or Smartsheet, you can't necessarily connect it in a uniform way, unless you have something like Teams for PM, which will allow you to make those connections. So it was a pretty exciting scenario for us to go after. So that's one of the reasons we tackled that. But yes, there's a vast amount of work that so ADO, I think what I said was H1, but I think we'll probably get it in Q1. So
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speed you up.
That's okay. I just the engineering team might kill me if I said Q1. So because they've actually got some things already in work, and I know they've done a lot of the groundwork for it, and so it may be in Q1, Frank, but we're not sure. It'll definitely in H1. There's some abstraction of work you have to do, and I'm sure everybody's familiar with the difference between doing like time phase task management, which is how you'd use a traditional tool like Project Online versus an ADO or Jira, where you're managing an agile app and you're not necessarily entering in time or managing time phase tasks. It's more like you're assigned to a team and you're working on epics and sprints and those kinds of things. So we're working on the way to abstract that in a logical fashion so that it can then be brought into kind of that higher level. Project intakes. Yeah. Great question, Frank. So the intakes and approvals, budget sign-offs. Yeah. So we actually provide, and I'm sure Brian is happy to do a demo at some point to show like our out of the box. Engineers are funny people. The way that we provide it just out of the box, and it's a fairly generic workflow. What we find is virtually all of our customers want to change that, and they want to do their own thing. And so we have customers who have built very elaborate workflows, and in some cases, because it's, again, Teams for PM inherits all of the capabilities of the Power Platform. So you can build it, the one that we provide out of the box is a Power Automate workflow, right? So it's just a Power Automate workflow that at the end it passes the project information into Teams for PM, and then it's managed in the tool. You could do the same thing by customizing and building your own. You just need to know what those attached data points are. And so we've had customers who've, one customer, actually I can say the name because there's a public case study on the Southern New Hampshire University, built a very elaborate workflow that I think it's 17 stages or something like that it goes through, and for all the approval cycles, and meets all their business logic for sign-offs and all those kinds of things. The interesting piece of that was there was an unintended benefit that I don't think we, or even the folks we were working with at the PMO, which knew, kind of came out of it, which was they made it available, that workflow, to any of the departments that were requesting work. So any department could do it. It's not just an IT project or whatever that people are trying to get launched. And so it created a higher level of visibility as the kind of things that people were going after. And so people actually started to correlate needs across departments, and they said, what you're doing over here looks a lot like what we need to do. So they started consolidating some of this and saying, let's work on this together to figure out the right, whatever the initiative is that they were trying to launch, or they were going to buy software or whatever it was, to meet that requirement. So it was an unintended benefit, and they're finding a lot of value on that cross and value of being able to collaborate together, efficiency, and being able to consolidate efforts. Some time and cost savings. So it's been a pretty interesting thing.
Yeah, Mike, if you want, I could roll through it real quick.
Sure. Yeah. If you want to just go through the basic workflow. Yeah. I'll stop sharing and yeah.
All right. Just give me a minute to transition.
What you're going to show is the out of the box one we do.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me know when you can see my screen.
I can see it.
Okay. So we're in my demo environment right now, and we have a project request form. This is an area where customers can really tailor the intake because it's just a Power App. So we would be able to collect whatever information you want to collect and maybe make it several steps. And the workflow could have different directions depending on the data and so forth. So as soon as this paints, I'll walk you through how to fill it out, and then we'll start the workflow. There's always a little bit of risk with live demos, especially from hotel rooms. So bear with me.
In the meantime, while you're firing that up, we did have another question that came in. What are some of the most used features of Teams for PM for our current customers? That's a good question. So Brian, you're pretty close to that too. I think, certainly the creation of projects is one that we've heard a lot of customers really, really like to do. And I think one of the customers said it's magic when you can go in and create that project and you hit the button and then it goes and creates it, like in Project Online or whatever. You don't have to go do all that work.
Yeah, it happens. It does it all that standing up of the project team channel all for you automatically.
Yeah. There's another feature that I know some of our customers use. I don't know if it's the most used feature, but there's a lot of metadata management. It's hard when we do these demos that you can't cover everything, but you can manage metadata across projects. And a lot of our customers like that because you don't have to go into the individual application, the tool, like in Project Online, and go to each and every project and change certain metadata. You can actually see it in a grid view, and you can edit it all right there. So you may change your financial information or your whatever the metadata is around that project, and you can define those things as well. And it's fully customizable, and people love the idea of being able to do that all in one. It's a huge time saver.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that actually while we're waiting for the workflow process because it takes a minute or two. So I submitted the form. Now, what you're talking about, Mike, is this screen here, and I can actually make it bigger and expand that out to the whole screen. But you can see all the projects that are taking place and that are within Teams for PM that it knows about. And all these projects have their own workspace, but they're being executed with different solutions like Planner or Project Online or Planner Premium.
Right.
And you can change the data here in line. So there's a very easy, simple way of managing that data. So it's all the metadata. And this is another area where customers really customize is the metadata, like that you want to capture for your specific process and then be able to edit that centrally, and this is more something that a PMO manager or someone in a position of leadership would have access to.
Yeah, but the customers who have it love it because you don't have to go and like the Project Online experience there would be you'd have to go open each of those project detail pages, right, Brian, and change it in each and every one of them. And we've had customers for years who ask us, can you give us all this information? We said, yeah, we can give you a report, but what we can't do is give you the information where that report's editable. Now you can see it in one grid like this, edit it right there. It makes the change in Teams for PM, but it also, in the case of Project Online, syncs back up with the Project Online metadata.
Exactly. So it's a huge improvement over Project Online. No more PDPs. Basically, you can still use them if you want. That information will populate here, but you don't have to go back to each one and change the data individually, like you said. So
Right.
huge boon there in productivity. And then you can also see we have issues, risks, and lessons learned in the same way. So you can edit those all centrally. You can, and that data will actually go back to the team's channel where the team is working. So you can come in here as a project leader and you can say, well, the impact of this might be a little bit lower than a 5. I would make it a 3, make that a 3, and then that's going to go back to the channel, and then the team will see that on their side as well.
Right. Yeah. Frank just said it's basically this equivalent of the PDP and PWA, and yeah, in a sense, it's exactly what it is, and it does sync with the PDPs, like you said, Brian.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
If you want to maintain it in both of those places.
Right. Exactly.
Yes, Frank, it is customizable as well. Yeah, you can change the fields. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, change all the fields, the different data that you want to collect, etc.
Somebody asked another question about timesheeting, and the answer is we don't have timesheeting yet, but we do have a resource planning module, and that also goes back to the question about it's coming out in a release, I think, like this month, and it's or maybe it's already out there. I can't remember. I'm sorry, but the resource planning module is the one people have a lot of interest in. There's a lot of interest in doing the resource planning. Now, it's not actually connected to the project plans per se. So it's not pulling resource information from the project plans. What it's doing is allowing you to do the resource planning across any of the initiatives, and you can define your own phases and things that how you want to do the planning. We will continue to innovate on that and continue to build that out. But that's a highly anticipated one from several of our customers.
But Mike, let's talk about timesheeting for a minute, because if a customer wanted to do that today, I think we would be able to do it as a customization. But what is it that let's talk about how we're thinking about timesheeting, because we have these multiple ways of executing projects, right, with different types of data.
Yeah. So it actually kind of goes to the whole philosophy, our design philosophy, right, Brian? It's really what we're doing is we're saying it's a platform first philosophy. So you're really looking at aggregating all the stuff like what we're showing. And then what we're saying is the platform allows you to then customize things almost like the intake workflow. It wasn't a lot of work to go change that intake workflow independent of the project execution tool, because it's built on Power Platform, and you just have to know where the hooks are to go into Teams for PM and into the tool. So if you think about timesheeting the same way, you can now start to abstract it from the individual tools and cross tools. So we do have customers who've done that, and you can actually build timesheeting in of itself, building a form that people fill out and tracks time phase data is not very hard. I mean, you could do it in an Access database, going all retro, right? But you can do that in Power Apps very quickly. We've quoted it and built it for customers, and it can be, in that case, it can actually be more customized to exactly how you need to do that time capture than if you were trying to shoehorn it into what we've seen a lot of customers do in things like Project Online, which has time sheeting, but then customers have their own way they want to do it. Sometimes they work around the way it works. Sometimes they write macros or they write solutions that will do things that will kind of bend it. So you can be much more specific around it, and it's really not that labor and cost intensive to go build that in Power Apps. So that's why we're kind of thinking of it almost upside down. So what you're asking there, Frank, how do tasks get completed in terms of percent complete? You still can do percent complete, and you still can do that in the in tool, right? So if you have Project Online, you still can do a percent complete. If you're using Planner, the new Planner with premium features, you can do percent complete. If you're using Monday, you can do percent complete. What we're saying is where we're probably going to go with timesheeting is one of the future features is more abstracting it, like what we're doing at the resource planning level. But in the meantime, it's easy enough to actually build rudimentary timesheeting just using Power Apps.
Yeah. So here's the request that came through to the approver. So I'm the approver, and this is just another example of how the Power Automate could function and how it could display information. So this is our demo, and then we have something that's recommending which tool we should be creating this project in based on its size. So there's an example there of either a different recommendation criteria or logic that you might have that you want implemented, or even just pick it on its own just because of its of the criteria. So in this case, I'm going to pick project for the web, which has been renamed as of late, planner with premium features. And then I'm going to say I have a schedule template and approve the project. And then I'll hit submit. Now the workflow is going to ask me which template do I want to use. And again, project for the web, AKA planner with premium features, doesn't have an enterprise templating feature. We're adding that to the mix here as Teams for PM adds a templating feature to, I'm going to move this thing out of the way. That's annoying. Teams for PM adds a templating feature to the process. So I'm going to hit new contract, and that's going to be the template that I'll use. Now what's going to happen is Teams for PM is actually going to create the work site as a Teams channel in Innovative Products, which is where I told it to create it. It's going to go through the process of actually standing that up. And you'll see that come through in just a second. And it's going to instantiate the project for the web schedule based on the template. And within 1 or 2 minutes, you'll be ready to go and everything will be provisioned. Your entire site will be stood up. Now, what that does is, okay, it removes a lot of manual work from that process, but it also creates governance and consistency because project managers otherwise would do kind of whatever they wanted in terms of standing up a site or a channel. It would be inconsistent. They wouldn't be able to collect the data in a meaningful way. And you can see it already lit up there. So let's go ahead and head over to that channel. I think I called it Demo Project San Antonio. There it is. And now that channel is available. Note that we already have some tabs appearing at the top. And you can actually sit here and watch Teams for PM provision the other tabs right in front of you when they're ready. So it's already done the project. Yeah, it's just going to magically appear. So you already have the project schedule, the report, and the project details. Let's take a look at the project schedule. All right, so we have our project schedule using the template that we just selected, and it's all pre-filled out, pre-created. And you can have all kinds of conditional formatting in your templates, labels, other stuff. You can have different columns that you want, add columns, and then save it as a template. So there's a ton of real flexibility there. And again, this is not something that Microsoft offers out of the box. Teams for PM creates this as an enhancement to the process. So you can get started really, really quickly. And then you've got your board view and your timeline view and your columns in the order in which you want them to appear. Let's say that you wanted, start date over here or finish date over there, percent complete in a different spot. You wanted, the actual effort versus the duration. And you wanted these things to be in a certain place so that you would have maybe a training efficiency with your project managers. You'd be able to do that. And then you can see we popped in some other tabs here already. Let's go to the report. This is a Power BI report that is going to show absolutely nothing right now because it's brand new and it doesn't have any data really to display, but it's ready to go and ready to be populated within, as you see, a minute or less of actually creating the project and proving it. So that's ready to go, done. And then you have your project details tab, which is where the project manager would go to staff the project, to update information about the project so that it could appear in reporting to management. It's just like a project detail page if you're familiar with Project Online, but this is written in a Power App. And it's another area where our customers like customize this. So you have different fields of data that you want to collect. How do you do cost health? Do you do red, yellow, green indicators? Do you want to capture different types of cost? It's basically just a page that you can put any fields on with different ways of managing the data, collecting it. Your project team here, and you can go ahead and start staffing your team. You can bring in members of the team to this, and then you can staff your team accordingly. So let's see, new project team member. You want to do it bring Brian on the team. And then according to a certain skill that Brian has, like Power BI, you can go ahead and add Brian to the team. Now Brian's on the team. And what we can do here is we can say what phase Brian's associated with on the project. So you can add some new project phases over here. And we can look for what project phases are already in the system in the template. Maybe we want to add discovery. What date? What is discovery going to start? It's going to start on the 28th, and it's going to end a month later. Save and close. You can add those phases on there, and then you can have Brian associated as a percent to those phases, and that'll help you get your resource management under control.
Yeah, from a planning perspective, right? Yep.
Yeah, from a high-level planning perspective. So it's not counting all the hours that are in the project schedule, but it also lets you do kind of multimodal resource management across different tools, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, I think we have a few other questions here. One, how can a resource see activities as assigned to them by project? I think that would actually be in the individual project execution tool, right? So important thing to remember is Teams for PM it's not a scheduling engine. It actually sits over all the project execution tools. So you could use Planner with premium features, Project for the Web. You could use Project Online, things for that. And then, of course, Microsoft has those kind of things built in. If you were using Planner, you can also go to your to-do list, which is in Microsoft, and see the activities that are assigned to you, right?
Yeah, that's right. So you would just use the assign to here, and you can see, since I added Brian to the team, he's available for assignment of work, and then you would work that. Now, resources actually can mark their own tasks as complete, and they can do that by coming in here and just clicking the check. And depending on how you have your environment set up, they may be able to also go into the Planner tool here if you're using Planner as a scheduler and mark things as complete over there. You have the interactivity, the collaboration on the schedule, but also you're able to have a little chat feature here, so you can all converse with one another, get things done in real time. And then another great feature of Planner another premium feature of Planner is the ability to have a chat on a task level and have a task level conversation with your team members about getting things done there.
So there's another question here about speaking of time entry against task update percentage complete automatically, as well as calculating project health and earned value method. So that's getting into some very intricate calculations and things like that. Right now, we will work with multiple tools out there. Probably, if you're already Microsoft centric, the tool that does earn value and does percent complete and task-based updates and time sheeting and those kind of things, of course, we would want to have some more conversations about it, but it would probably be for that. And what we see is a lot of our customers don't need that level of sophistication for their whole organization, but for the part of your organization that needs that level of sophistication, you would probably look at using Project Online today and maybe move away from that in the future as Planner with premium features starts to catch up with some of those kind of features. Those features are not available within Planner with premium features now, and they may not ever get to be honest, to like EVM. EVM is, it's great, but it's also not very commonly used out there. It's a great metric, but you have to have really good data, and you have to really be able to stay on top of people to get that data good. So you can do EVM. We've done EVM in Project Online, and that can be done with that. So that's probably the way we would tackle that scenario. And then also ask is, as well as aggregating those values at a project level and enterprise level. So when you talk about aggregation of data, what's cool about that is you can do that within a tool like Project Online. You can pull that information out. What's also interesting is we can aggregate information across project tools. So depending on what the information is. And so that's where it starts to get even more interesting. You talk about like the metadata and some of the other pieces, you can start to aggregate that because it's built on the Dataverse, especially the Microsoft technology stack. Those things have hooks into the first party modern apps. And for those who want to talk more about it, there's a difference between what is really considered, even though it's in the cloud, a legacy application like Project Online, which is basically SharePoint based, versus the like Planner, which Brian was just showing is really, it's a first party Power App application. It's built all in Power Apps. So it's taking advantage of all the capabilities that are built into it natively. Now, having said that, we talked about third parties. The platform itself has over 900 connectors now. I think we even joked in one of our conversations or webinars recently that there was, I think there's a Chuck Norris connector for the Chuck Norris quote of the day. But in all seriousness, there actually is. But in all seriousness, you can connect to virtually anything through that very elaborate set of connectors that are out there. So for third-party apps, you can bring that data in as well and aggregate that up as well, and we can leverage that.
So let's explore a little bit. If you had a mixed scenario, Mike, and you had some projects that were using Project for the Web or Planner Premium. So in this case, I have the artificial intelligence project that's running the project that way, and that's a great way to have folks who are part-time project managers or project managers but only need so much tool, and they may not navigate or be drawn to Microsoft Project on the desktop as their tool of choice. This is a much easier, simpler tool to use. But then you have other folks that need to do earned value management and need to the power of Microsoft Project. And so I have the application lifecycle management phase 2 project, which actually uses Project Online, but inside of Teams, leveraging Teams for PM. So just similar to the way that the other projects are set up, I have my project status report, which is exactly the same. I have my project details tab, which allows me to collect that data that I want to collect for reporting purposes. And I have my risk issue, lessons learned, and other types of list data, which is all managed centrally as we showed. But in this particular case, if I click on the project tab, it actually launches Project Online. And you can see it'll bring up PWA here in a separate tab, and you can go into the project schedule right from there and leverage that in order to keep it up to date. That may take a second to come up. So regardless of how you're managing the project, if you're managing it in Project for the Web or Project Online, we allow you to do that within the Teams for PM concept. So here comes the project plan right here. I can edit it right here, or I can bring it down to the desktop, and I can add those additional, that robust ability to capture that type of data. And we do rely on Project Online for some things still, because Project for the Web / Planner with premium features does not do everything that Project does. Another area that it kind of falls short is the baselining feature. It's not as robust as you would want in some cases. Basically, the baselining feature of Planner just basically takes a picture of the start and finish date and the work and things like that as a snapshot. So there's your baseline right there. Now that's not going to compare multiple baselines, and it's not going to allow you to do a lot of the things a lot of the different data that's captured in baselines, like comparing one Gantt chart to another to see how it changed and things like that, which is what we know Project Online can do.
The good old tracking Gantt, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, this is another good question. In terms of reporting governing, imagine you have out-of-the-box project level reports as well as enterprise level reports and capabilities to customize. I'll answer the last one first, and then I'm sure you can show a couple of those reports, clicking into those. All the reporting is built on the Power Platform and Power BI. So the customization, if you have people with those kind of capabilities, we make all the data set information available, and we have customers who are off doing their own thing and building their complicated sets of reports and everything else. And some customers ask us or other partners to do it if they don't have that level. But yeah, the customization, it's virtually limitless on what you can do with the reporting customizations.
Now let's go into the enterprise level reports. We showed the project level reports a couple times now. So this is our Teams for PM executive dashboard. It pulls together all of the data from all of the channels into one spot, and it leverages Power BI, so you get your nice visualizations, the ability to drill down and have the different components of the report be reactive. You can open it up in a full window, so you get a little bit more room to play with. And then, of course, you can export this to a PowerPoint or a PDF if you wanted to, or share it with others from here. You can also chat about the report in the chat thread. If I want to drill in to, let's say, the program that I'm most interested in learning about, I can say I want the Innovative Products program to only show up in the report, and then the report will adjust accordingly. So you can have departmental reports, program level reports. If you have other slicers, this is another area that we tailor these reports all the time for our customers. And like Mike said, we're experts in Power BI. If you have Power BI folks on staff as well, maybe they could get involved with either creating or maintaining some of these reports too. I like the risk log because you can go into the risk log and see all the risks across all of the projects that are being worked. And this is updated like periodically throughout the day. It's not quite real time, but it basically, we'll read basically the data that's happening in all the different channels of what's going on in teams, and then display it here. And you can go and navigate to by clicking on the heat map here. You can see what's going on in different projects.
Yeah, I'd just like to add there.
One other area I just wanted to highlight, Mike, is the resource management information and data. So I'll go back to that real quick.
While you're navigating back, I just wanted to highlight about the risk management. You always like to say that risk management is one of the most underserved areas in project management, from your experience in doing it. And what you just showed there, in that kind of that risk at a high level where it aggregated it across things. So project health indicators, it's a combination of, somebody just asked the question, are they updated manually? It's a combination of manual and automatic. It depends on which ones and how they're done. We could drill more into that. But on the risk thing, you're actually, because Teams for PM creates the uniform channel construct, those risks that it's aggregating are across workloads. So it could be any of the work, whatever tool you're using, it's mining those risks from those common channels. And there's even a feature we've added with AI to go auto populate those risks through with approval from a project manager, and we could show that at a different time.
Right, read the transcript of like a meeting and say, this was a risk, and then it'll pre-populate it in there for approval.
Right, so you get that data in there with almost no human interaction, but you get that robust data so that you can do that risk management more effectively. Which is, by the way, it's not just you, Brian. A lot of experts and the industry analysts and stuff have said risk management is one of the key detriments to project success. It's been very well documented.
Absolutely. Very passionate about that. So you have, remember when we were staffing the project and we were allocating me to a certain percent of time according to a phase of a project and my skill? Well, this is how that comes together in aggregate. So you have these team assignments, and regardless of what tool you're using to actually execute it, then it'll work across all the different project management tools, because we're capturing that data kind of at a higher level. And what you see here is, a roll up of all of my availability and how overbooked I am during certain months. So you can start to get a picture of when I'm available for additional work, and the rest
looks about right.
Well. Yeah, feels like more.
I mean, for October, November, you're definitely overbooked.
Yeah. So so this is and then you have your issues list, which is very similar as well. Again, this is just really an example. I mean, if you want this exact dashboard in your environment, sure, we'll put it in there, but I'd imagine you probably want something slightly different.
Yeah, so speaking of risk, is there a RAID-like function in the tool? So in essence, we build, can you go back to one of the sites?
Get there,
so
back there.
we do risk, issues, and
lessons learned,
actions, and lessons learned. So we haven't actually put a decisions tab in there, but all the rest of them are in there already, and it's all provisioned automatically and maintained automatically.
Well, actually, Mike,
action.
I don't mean to correct you, but they did build that capability. So you have risks and issues and lessons learned, which is our basic 3 that we go with, and then the customer actually can use the admin console to create actions and decisions. Or I mean, you can do it. So if you want yours to be on there,
right? Yep, absolutely. Now, in terms of automating them, it's only the actions and risks that we've done the AI automation to so far, and probably because those are the default ones that are in there.
But you can report on your RAID. I mean, we've seen RAID spelled a little differently, haven't we, Mike, across the board? But whatever your definition of it is, you can create those lists, you can capture that information right here in the channels and roll it up to the reports and manage it centrally.
Yeah, and another one that people will sometimes add, speaking of extensibility, this is things like benefits or benefits realized, things like that. So
Oh yeah,
benefit realization.
really
Yeah,
any list is possible, and they would just be additional tabs here, and they
yeah.
could provision with the template as well. So as it stood these up, the template that I used for San Antonio, where'd it go now? It's I had to show it. So let's see. There it is, show. And now it'll be over here in the list. There it is. So this one actually had issues, lessons learned, risks, and actions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this isn't rocket science either. This is a SharePoint based list.
Right,
But the beauty of it is that when, like I showed before, the way that it saves it into the central database, and then you can edit it centrally.
right, and make it common.
All right, should I stop sharing?
Yeah, I don't have the only other slide I had was the get in touch, so I'll share that. I think it's all of our get in touch information, which I think several people already have, but there's our info. Um, and if there's any other questions, we could take those. We've got a couple minutes left. Good interaction. Appreciate the questions.
Oh, looks like Frank spells raid differently. So let's try to guess what those letters mean. So risks, actions. What would be another A, Mike?
I
Don't
don't
tell
know.
us, Frank.
I would maybe assignments. I don't know.
Oh,
Risk actions.
okay. We give up. Assumptions.
Decision.
Assumptions.
Assumptions.
Yeah.
Assumptions could be it.
Risk, actions, assumptions, issues, decisions, and there's an E.
Risk actions, assumptions. Yep, there you go.
Bam.
Yeah, we're looking forward to talking as well.
What's the E?
Issues. Yeah, it's killing Brian.
Escalations. Okay.
Ah,
Thank
that's
you.
a good one. That's
Yes.
actually
I
a
like
really
that.
good one.
Hmm.
Yeah, because almost every project will have them from time to time, and I'm assuming what you're talking about there is building in your escalations, what needs to be escalated, where you need interaction from stakeholders, higher level folks that can resolve something that's going on or add budget or if they need it, because that's oftentimes the ask, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna need a little more.
All right. So keep in touch if anybody wants to, schedule a separate demo or another session for your company. Let us know. There's our contact information, QR codes. Otherwise, Frank, we know to reach out to you. And thanks for your participation, especially today. Anything else we want to wrap up with, Mike?
I don't think so. I think this was a lot of fun. If everybody found it useful, we'll do more of these in the future.
Excellent.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Thanks everybody for attending.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye, everybody.